Commissioners meeting and workshop. It's March 16th, 2021, and we are going to do the workshop before our regular meeting, and when the workshop is concluded, we'll go straight into our regular meeting, just so you know. And I'm going to turn the meeting over to Chief Maurer, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Losbeck. Tonight's workshop has to do with the maintenance division and the future of our facilities in regards to that. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Newberry, who has that report ready for you.
Thanks, Chief Maurer, Mr. Chairman, and board members. I want to make sure that you were able to open the memo that I submitted to Chief Maurer, and that she has entered into the packet before I get started.
Yep, I was able to access it.
Okay, if you have any problems, if you have any problems, let me know before I get too deep. So,
yeah, the shop facility discussion, right?
Yep, that's the one. This entire discussion, I hope not to monopolize all of your time, but this entire discussion has to do with our proposal to include the shop remodel and expansion in any upcoming remodels that we do or projects we do at Station 61, and why we think it's important. And I want to make sure that you can ask questions all along the discussion or at the end. I also want to just let you know how this is laid out. It's laid out kind of with the mission statement and the strategic priorities that we're basing it on. Identify the problem that we currently have, a solution and the benefits of remodeling the shop and adding on to it, a few negatives to it, and then at the end there's a closing and then a bunch of footnotes that tell you exactly how we arrived at kind of our numbers and our discussion points. So, having said that, just wanted to bring you back to the mission statement, which is something that we use to focus all of our decisions at the staff level, dedicated to excellence in protecting and serving our community. If it doesn't pass that, we don't go for it. And then also strategic priority number 2, which is in the board-approved strategic plan that Chief Maurer presented in 2020. Priority number 2 is discussing that we'd like to work towards becoming a good neighbor with other agencies while at the same time becoming a mostly self-sufficient fire service agency. And that not only has to do with deploying resources, but also how we take care of ourselves. So the problem that we currently see is that the NFPA standard and industry best practices is to utilize ASE certified EVTs, which is emergency vehicle technicians, which Arnie is one. In the rest of the region, the only other ones that are available to us are mostly Tannin for service repairs. There's several others throughout not several others, there's a few others throughout the area, but one of them doesn't work on large equipment. Another one of them is not quite twice as far away from us as Tannin is, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But we do use Tannin because they are certified. Furthermore, David Tannin and Mark Tannin have been wonderful long-term partners of the fire district for a long time, and they'll continue to be vitally important to us as we look into the future. Nonetheless, utilizing Tannin exclusively has a few problems that I want to make sure that we discuss, both of which are real problems that we currently experience and potential problems that we may experience that we want to flush out. So, regarding strategic priority number 2, if we want to be self-sufficient fire service agency, yet we rely on somebody else exclusively for all of our service needs, that those two don't line up together. And for one thing, it forces the fire district to be at the mercy of their hiring practices, their turnover, the level of competency of the employees that they hire, some of which is not always great. And I know that they know that, and they work really hard to ensure competence and efficiency, but it's not always something they can control either. We certainly can't control them. Also, when there's a single provider, it's somewhat of a monopoly, and there's potential for accelerating costs that we can't control. We can't control what they have to pay in labor. We can't control what they charge in, all the other expenses that come along with repairing apparatus. They are also the only resource in the county for most of the non-Vancouver fire resources. And, that's a lot of business for a small business like Tannin to carry. They're always busy. Their book is always full. And, they serve us on a first-come, first-served basis. They're human beings also. They need to take off time. They need to go hunting and fishing and spend time with their families. And when they're a small business, that means that they're not always available for us, when we sometimes need them in an emergency. Not sometimes, but oftentimes. And then finally, what happens if Tannin decides that they're going to do something different with their business model? Switch gears, or something happens to one of their main people. We have no plan B currently, and that certainly does not get in line with our strategic priority number 2 of being a self-sufficient agency. So, did I interrupt somebody? Okay, I'll keep going. So the next thing is economics of this, and I'm not here to propose that we're going to save a ton of money by building a shop and outfitting and all those things. I'm just saying that it's questionable for us regularly of our practice of taking our apparatus to East Battleground for all the annual services, and then of course all the repairs that happen multiple times throughout the months. For the following reasons: their current shop rate's $120 an hour. And because they're the only provider in the area, they could, although they won't because they're really good, solid people, they could raise their prices to at least the market rate and potentially higher because they have a monopoly. There's not a lot of other competition. As a small business, they mark up parts. So, if we have a $5,000 transmission, they mark it up 30%, and the math of that is, a lot. For us to deliver one of our fire engines to Tannin cost $388, and you might wonder how I figured that out, and it's kind of complex, but it's in the footnotes. But for us to take a fire engine out to Tannin, we have the mileage involved, the wear and tear on the vehicle, plus it takes us 2 employees a long time, about an hour and a quarter round trip each to make that delivery. And that adds up, and when you put a dollar figure like that on it, it really makes you think. And then also, because our personnel aren't always available, you don't always have 2 people that are both available at the same time when the phone call comes from David that our rig is ready to just break away and go pick it up. And sometimes that causes delays and us returning those rigs to service, which is not ideal. So we're proposing that, and you've seen on the plans, that we're proposing to remodel the existing shop and to add on a 2-bay shop to it to make it fully functional. And to us, this meets the strategic priorities and the mission in a number of ways. First thing it does is it transforms all the shop space, or the space within the current building, to other really important projects the fire district has, and not the least of which is kind of the gem of our fire service is the cadet program, which is one of the gems of our fire department, and also the commitment that we have to wellness of the membership, the employee group, and staff, to have a fitness space that is free from diesel smoke and all the other contaminants that they're currently exposed to in the truck bay that they're working in, or they're exercising in. It also will add a much-needed maintenance workshop area, a small workshop area, and Essential Supply, which currently we kind of have it spread all over hither and yaw, and we're hoping to formalize that more in a single location and make it much more efficient. We could talk a long time about some of the inefficiencies that we've been working through to make the fire district a leaner machine. So the next thing that we'd like to talk about is utilizing our current talent. We have an EBT certified technician in Arnie, and we currently utilize him basically as a manager of projects. And we don't utilize him for his talents as being a service technician, yet we support him in his recertifications every year. We support him with tool allowances, and occasionally he gets to work on things, but it's not often. With the hiring of Andre doing many more of the facility maintenance projects, it frees Arnie up to do some of those maintenance services and things, if only we were to have some more facility for him to be able to do it. There's potential for a ladder truck coming, and when we take our gear to another shop, we may not be prioritized in the order of first come, first serve. With a ladder truck, we don't have that luxury of going into reserve for a long period of time. We'll be without a ladder truck for a period, and that's not ideal for any of our apparatus, but certainly not for a ladder. Also, there's potential for saving money on labor because the labor expense that we pay to an outside shop is more than we have internally. There's the lack of markup on the parts. There's that $388 ticket to get a rig out to Tannen's that we wouldn't have to incur. And then potentially, depending on what the fire chief's recommendations could be and the board's discretion, there may be opportunities for additional revenue streams in the future if we wanted to partner with other local fire agencies to do some of their work. That certainly isn't something that we would be coming out of the chute doing, but it's something that over this 20-year plan could reveal itself to be a way to fund the operation of the fire district in some part. And then lastly, the contingency. Like I mentioned, we don't have a plan B, and by doing this project, we would certainly at least have a plan B. Hopefully a lot more than that, but at the very least, we'd have that plan B in case Tanneman couldn't work on our rigs. So those are the positive things that the staff feels are important to discuss. But obviously there's some negative aspects to it, not the least of which is the expense of building this building. We're working through the project costs for the Station 61 remodel and expansion of the shop, and it's not dialed in yet. I'm hoping that we'll have that for your next board meeting or the one after that, but we are working on that. And but it's going to cost money, especially right now, because building costs are going up. It's kind of an anomaly right now, but building with the decrease in supply chains or the limitations that supply chains have, plus the fact that there's been kind of a boom on construction services, all the stimulus money that's going out there. There's a lot of people utilizing that to build projects, home projects, any number of projects. And building costs, especially building materials costs, have gone through the roof. There's an estimate that I was reading about that they're experiencing where lumber packages were about $250 per 1,000 feet. They're now at $1,000 per 1,000 feet. So that's a four-fold increase in lumber by itself, not to mention all the other things that are limited by supply and demand. We don't know what's going to happen in the near future. We don't know what is going to happen in the distant future, but there is that potential for having this cost us a decent amount of money, even when building is slowing down and labor is more readily available. Building materials are going up. Also, if we built the shop, we need to outfit it with some equipment. While we have a lot of tools already that Arnie has been accumulating over the years, there will certainly be other expenses to ensure that we can meet the requirements. But a lift, of some kind is in the cards. There's jacks and oil dispersal. I mean, there's just equipment that goes into a shop that we would have to purchase, and that's something to consider. The last thing that is somewhat of a downside is that we've had the kind of luxury of unlimited parking at Station 61, and we wouldn't have that same luxury anymore because the shop would be taking up a portion of it, and the approach to the shop would be taking up a portion of it. It wouldn't all disappear, but some of it would, and we would have to make accommodations for the cadet program and figure out different options. But I think that we're certainly capable of doing that. So in closing, we will certainly be bringing you a cost analysis, and the purpose of this was not to kind of vet the cost of the project just yet, but it was just to inform you of why staff feels that it's important. But we believe that for a pretty reasonable cost, we can meet the mission of the fire district and the strategic priority number 2 of the fire district, have a contingency in case any of our key partners can't provide us service any longer. We'll be able to utilize building space that we already have for other really important things that we have on the docket: the cadets, the supplied space, the PT room, a small work area for maintenance, and service save money and be more self-sufficient by servicing most of our own equipment. We believe that we may eventually be able to expand those services if the fire chief and the board so chose to outside agencies, which would be beneficial to the fire service community at a whole, at large, and put us on the map a little bit by supporting the fire service community, and also the fire chiefs association mechanics. They have a hard time getting EVT tests and training down here in this region because it's just kind of abandoned for the most part. You have to travel a long way, and this is another benefit that we would have by having a space to do this in. So, that's kind of my spiel in a nutshell. As you notice, there's a bunch of stuff at the bottom that has a bunch of footnotes as to where we came up with this information. I wanted to make sure that everything that I told you today was easily verifiable, and anyway, I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Chief Newberry, Commissioner Collins here.
Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Okay, very good. Hey, so is the Vancouver shops out of the question now that we stopped using them? Are they even an option for us?
So that's a good question. There's a number of factors that go into that, but the biggest issue is that they have not been accepting a lot of hardly any outside work at all. They're taking care of all the city vehicles and the Vancouver Fire Department vehicles pretty exclusively. And so, no, they have not been an option for us. The options that we have are Tannin, who is a full-service shop. They can handle gasoline and diesel equipment. They're EVT certified. The second one we have in the area is Wapiti Northwest, who they're awesome too, but they only handle small equipment. Not small equipment, but non-pumpers. So our squads, our staff vehicles, our smaller vehicles. And their rate is higher than Tannin's is by about 10%. And the third one is Hughes Fire Equipment, which is our local distributor for Pierce, equipment. But their closest shop, they opened one in Gresham, so it's not quite twice as far away as Tannin is.
Yeah. What's the name of the facility out there in Ridgefield there by Corwin Beverage nowadays?
So that's called Western Star.
Okay.
They're mostly they're a big rig outfit. They do a lot of our transmission work for us. They have one EVT certified technician there. Unfortunately, they're so busy with so much other work that they can't prioritize us. It's actually we've had equipment. They're great too. We have great partners. I don't want to diminish that at all. But unfortunately, sometimes we wait a long time to get work done there. Also, other times it's wonderful. It's great, but it's not, because they handle such a variety of equipment, they cannot prioritize the fire service agency. And many of the local fire agencies use them for specialty stuff, but they don't use them for their main go-to shop.
Yeah, I just didn't know what the name of it was nowadays, but I noticed. For years gone by, we've had this discussion for years since we sold our Vancouver. They came from a long ways away to bring their engines up there. I see engines going there all the time. I used to anyway. So
up to Western Star.
Yeah, before when it was a Pacific Detroit Diesel, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a couple things: GSU, Pacific Detroit Diesel, Pac Power, Western Star.
So anyway, I wasn't sure what the name was, so I just, had said back then that we are not limited to, I didn't want our staff to feel like they were limited as to where they could take their rigs to be serviced, because we were hamstrung with Vancouver Fire at that point. We had Steve Streisgoose attend one of our meetings and ask what our intentions were with our maintenance programs. We were going to utilize Vancouver Fire and their mechanic services. And it's like, well, when, we want it to be an option, then we kind of lean towards Tananen, but I don't know that. I'm pretty sure we didn't burn a bridge with Vancouver Fire. However, you say they're taking on more of their fleet services, and they're probably pretty well tied up with that. So we'd have to, if we were to digress and go back to Vancouver Fire, we'd have to build that relationship.
Yeah, I would agree with that comment. And we're not in the business of burning bridges. Obviously, we want to build them, but it's a lot like Pac, or I keep calling it Pac Power because that's what I'm used to. But Western Star, they have a lot of customers and they have a lot of other priorities, and it's hard to create enough business or get enough business to them to put us at the top of their list when you have some of these trucking outfits going to them regularly for their work. So yeah, we're a little bit of a small fish, and hard to rise to the top of the priority list for anybody. But having said that, I want to make sure that the board understands that Tananen has been a great partner, and they will continue to be a great partner. I don't want to diminish that at all. But for the reasons that I've mentioned throughout this discussion, I just wanted to highlight some of the reasons that I think it's important, that the chief thinks it's important that we consider bringing some of this back in house and having a plan B and all the other things that I mentioned.
Sean, I think all the things you mentioned are good, and I think that it should be something we should pursue. My question is, it could be a year or two or three, or I don't know what the cost is going to be before we actually have that better facility. But with the TRT's equipment out at Station 3 now, is there any way we could get a bay open so that they could start doing some of the work?
So we currently have one bay that's outfitted for Arnie. And until and if we do the remodel, that will remain that will be the same story. So currently, if you were go from south to north, you have Cadet Bay, then you have Arnie's Bay, then you have the office, then you have what was formerly one of the TRT bays, and then the second TRT bay. We're currently using that for surplus and equipment. Ultimately, that would be a central supply location and a small shop for maintenance. The second bay from the south would be a physical training room, because we have no place for that right now. The crews are working out in truck bays. And the first one would be dedicated to cadets, while an offshoot expansion would be dedicated for maintenance or for vehicle maintenance, fleet maintenance.
I understand the plan, and I'm in agreement with it. My question is, in the next year or two, while we're waiting for that plan with our existing shop, can't we start doing some of the basic things ourselves? I don't think we're doing much of that, are we?
So we can do some things, and we have redirected some of the work, keeping it in-house instead of farming it out. And so minor things Arnie is taking care of more now than he has been in recent past. The problem is that it's not outfitted for a lift or for fluids or for doing an annual service, for instance, which is a comprehensive thing. It's very basic, but it is comprehensive and needs a longer and taller facility for him to be able to do that with.
Okay.
But yes, we are directing a lot of that smaller work and keeping it in-house when possible.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Pfeiffer, do you have anything?
I really don't at this time. Just taking in the information as it's been presented. What's the warranty on new apparatus? I know short of the preventative maintenance component, what is the warranty on new apparatus?
Oh my goodness, I knew that one time, and I'm drawing a blank.
10 feet or 10 seconds.
I think it's 1 year for some components and 3 years for others. But I'm drawing a little bit of blank. Chief Maurer, do you recall?
Yeah, it's 1 year for most of the, and then usually the warranty work by Hughes. So like when we brought the velocities on, Hughes would come down and do those warranty works for the year.
Yep.
And that's just because they're covered under the warranty to do the work.
Right. They also didn't have a local service center either. They were either coming from Tacoma or from Eugene. Now they have one in Gresham, but nonetheless.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Chief Newberry, will you be bringing us some preliminary cost estimates in the future?
On the building projects?
Yeah.
Yeah, so last week, what's today, Tuesday? Yeah, so last Thursday I met with the architect, and we started working through the cost estimates, and there's just, I think it's 16 pages that I have to digest and understand and make sure that it's complete. There's quite a bit of refining that I need to do with it because there was things included that we don't need, and there were things that weren't included that we do need. And so this is just part of the process of going through it and refining it. I do want to let you know that to be prepared for it's going to be an expensive project. I don't know what that number is exactly yet, but I plan to narrow it down and bring that to the chief for her to present or for me to present, whichever she chooses. I think we are hoping for next board meeting, if not that one, the second one in April.
Chief Newberry, one additional question here. Will your cost analysis provide insight into the necessary equipment, the lifts, the jacks, whatever additional equipment we will need? You'll provide analysis, okay.
I will provide that. Arnie and I have been collecting that information. He's been sending me spec sheets on the equipment that he feels we would need. We're not planning to go full tilt right out of the gate. I think having a comprehensive list is important, but not necessarily a comprehensive commitment to fulfill that entire list. But there are some things that we will need, and then some growing that we will need to do if the board so chooses.
And then, do you have a vision for what services the Tannin folks would continue to provide if the fire district chooses to take on some form of our own maintenance? Would that just kind of triage on a case-by-case basis, or would you be looking to utilize them for certain aspects of our maintenance?
Well, there are certain repairs that a single person cannot accomplish on their own. There's, heavy equipment, or 3 sets of hands that are sometimes necessary to move big things. I'm confident that we would triage those things out. I can see us doing most of, if not all of, our annual services, which is a huge cost. I don't see us doing things like engine overhauls, transmission overhauls, where there's some specialty folks with specialty equipment that we wouldn't necessarily want to invest in for the one-offs here and there. That's the vision that I have. Certainly then also all of our small equipment we could be doing in-house, where we have in the past farmed that out to local vendors as well.
Okay, thank you. And so our new maintenance worker then is solely focused on facilities. Is that correct?
That's correct. You know, he does have a commercial driver's license, but the 99% of his work is facilities, and then the other little bit is driving rigs around, helping Arnie, which has been really awesome. Yeah, he's not a technician when it comes to fleet.
Okay.
Chief Newberry, could you also bring the last couple of years worth of costs incurred with outside vendors such as Tannen for our mechanical needs?
Yes, of course. I had considered doing that for this meeting, but it's actually, as I started diving into it, it's a fairly deep and wide project, and it's going to take several man hours or people hours to do that. But I think it's an important thing for you to see. And I want to make sure that I'm not selling this as a huge cost-saving thing. I'm not sold that it's going to save us oodles and oodles of money. However, there will be a lot of efficiencies, and the fact that we don't have a contingency plan at all right now is important to us also. But I do think it's an important piece that I'll make sure to bring.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else for Chief Newberry? Hearing nothing at this point, we are going to move into our regular meeting, and I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask for any additions to the agenda.
None here.
Thank you. We need to read and approve the minutes of the March 2nd meeting, please.
Move for approval and post as necessary.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I did not see any correspondence.
Commissioner Losbeck, one piece of correspondence in the file.
Yes, I missed that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Keep the fave. Retirement reception.
Okay. Didn't get that, but that's okay.
So, Fire Chief Dave LaFave from Pellets 2 is retiring after 38 years of service.
Oh, wow.
Then they also have Deputy Becky Riblin, 21 years of service, retiring, and lead mechanic Dick Gardner, 25 years of service. So on April 1st at 11 to 2, Pellets 2 at Fire Station 21 will have a reception. All are welcome. They're going to have the bay doors open and COVID precautions.
Good. Very good. A long career. He's a good guy. Okay, committee reports. Citizen communication. If any of the citizens listening tonight have any questions, there's a place there in the chat that you can put those. And one of the Chief Schmidt or somebody will let us know if any questions come in during the course of our meeting. Health and safety, no report. Parade, there's not going to be a parade. We're going to try to do something virtual on our website. Risk management, no report. Fairgrounds Fire Facility Board, Commissioner Collins?
Yeah, we had a meeting here, and it was pretty much business as usual. We talked about the space needs out there, of what Clark Fire was needing. Sounds like they have an engine out there now that we've vacated ours, and Commander Phil Samples is moving on and took a position as chief of Department of Corrections. Sounds like that vacancy is open out there as commander of the West Precinct. They haven't yet filled that, and Chief Maurer and Chief Noor are still working to utilize the facility as best as possible, and it sounds like we may be using some of that space for the Station 61 retrofit and maybe using some of that space. Chief Maurer will have to work that out. And with that, Chief Maurer, is there something else I'm forgetting?
Nope, I think that.
Okay, so that's the report.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Move for second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Chief's report. Go ahead and go right through them, Chief.
Okay, so the first one is the February 2021 overtime report. We're tracking at $138,256.81. Most of that is in shift replacement and called in overtime. Just keep in mind that some of that is for the shot clinic up at the Clark County Fairgrounds, and we haven't been reimbursed for that yet. But we have billed our first billing out for about $20,000, and we'll keep billing as we go through. And then there was some increase in training costs, and that was because of bringing on the new hires and doing the academy. For the February budget performance report for 2212 General Fund Fire Suppression, our anticipated expenditures would be just under 25%. We've expended 15%. And for 6242, again, the anticipated expenditures would be just under 25, and we've expended 21.6. So we're tracking well for the budget performance report. The next one is a facilities update. Now back over to Chief Newberry to give.
I'm here. Give me just a second to open it up. Sorry about that. I wasn't prepared.
We have the report in front of us, Chief. The board, I'm sure the board has read that. I'm just wondering if they have any questions. I noticed you're working on the metal building. Trying to get it on that. I have a question that says replacement yard signs are in production. What yard signs are we replacing?
Well, we're not necessarily. I'm sorry, I didn't mean replacement, but the reader boards, that we've had for I don't know, probably close to a decade now.
Okay.
They needed some updating, and our current branding, and so those have been priced out by Vancouver Sign, and they're in production currently.
Okay, I remember you telling us. Thank you.
Yeah, they're getting a facelift.
Does any of the board members have any additional questions for the Chief Newberry?
None. Thank you for the report.
You're welcome.
COVID update, Chief?
So the COVID update in your packet is from March 9th. For Clark County, we've had a total of 18,585 positive cases of COVID, 228 deaths, and 188 active cases. So we're starting to see that we're leveling off, and hopefully we continue that direction.
Very good. Anything else, Chief's report-wise? Hearing none, old business, board workshop schedule?
So at the last board meeting, we discussed having a board workshop on May 4th. That board workshop was to include policy changes, the support services volunteer program, and Station 151.
Yes.
Working with Chief Nor's schedule, I'd like to move the Station 151 workshop to the May 18th meeting if possible.
I don't see a problem with that. That's good timing, though, because we're hoping to do our first meeting in May live. For us to actually get to meet together, so that'll be a good opportunity for us to discuss those workshop projects anyway. So let's see, if we're moving that, we need to have a vote to move that so the public knows. So need a motion.
Moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to move the 151 workshop to the second meeting in May. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. Any other old business? Hearing none, new business, Chief's guidance.
So under this topic, in our last meeting, we had some questions. I had some questions about what I had authority to approve and not approve. So I worked with Chair Losbeck and Secretary Taylor and got some guidance on where we're at with that, the chief, so that I would know exactly what I had the authority to do. Policy 201, board policies, covers what the chief can do and what the board does. So I wanted to outline some of the changes in that policy that would help address this. The main changes were that, sorry, I'm trying to get to it, but currently we do not have Rules and Regs Committee anymore like we used to have. That was taken out in the CBA. So to change rules and regs, the chief would recommend them work through the collective bargaining agreement with the local, and then those would go before the board. The board may grant the chief authority to sign, or the board could choose to sign. I outlined that any contracts between the district and other government entities should be approved and signed by the board unless you delegate it to the chief. And then for contracts for services that are limited short-term in duration and have no far-reaching effect, those would be ones that the chief would be able to sign. So like hiring instructors, smaller contracts that don't change the business of the district. And then the last one was the board may grant the chief authority to sign employment contracts with staff. However, changes to those contracts must be approved by the board. So that's all under 201, 5.2, duties of the front.
Yes.
The next part we looked at and considered was, again, just some cleanup language to address committees that we no longer had. And 201.6.3, spending limits of chief. I asked if the chief could be raised to $15,000 without board approval. It hasn't been increased in a long time. It's been at the $10,000 threshold for a while, and things seem to cost more. And then I just highlighted, because the board approved the chief to approve expenditures associated with budgeted capital projects valued under $20,000. I asked the board if we could raise that to $25,000. So those are the changes within that policy that I think will help give us some guidance, so that I know what
you took input from everybody and did a nice job of putting in this policy. Thank you.
Welcome.
I think it's really clear now, and unless the other board members have any questions.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
No questions here either. We just need a motion to approve. Is that correct?
Well, let me think. Here we go again. Secretary Taylor, are you there?
Yes, I am.
If we're changing the policy, we have to do it at our next meeting, right? We can't do it at this meeting.
That has been the practice of the board, yes. I did want to point out one more change that you might want to make that I just noticed.
Okay.
And that was 201.7.2, compensation for services. The amounts are wrong in there, so maybe you just want to say in accordance with state law.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Chief?
Well, you
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say the board can adopt the policy whenever they choose, and it just has been your practice to delay it for a meeting.
Okay. So, what's the board's wishes on this? Do you want to postpone it to the next meeting, or you want to go ahead and approve it?
Yeah, we can keep things consistent and wait till the next meeting to approve then.
Okay. If you would put that in roll business at the next meeting, Chief, that'd be a good thing.
Okay,
And thanks for the extra work you did on it. I know it took some time.
no problem.
Nothing's easy. Okay, wellness program. We got that in our packets too. You want to highlight anything?
Yeah, so the 2019-2021 CBA had 3 addendums that we were to address outside of the formal negotiations. So one of those was wellness and fitness. Essentially, we took the previous wellness program that the district carried with Portland Adventist, updated it to current cost, and made one change. We made some minor changes, but the major change was we exempted the fit, no fit letter requirement. So it's an NFPA 1582 physical for all of our line employees, for all of our suppression employees, and then we also included a less physical for staff employees, so they wouldn't get the full NFPA 1582, but they would still get a physical. So the high end of the program is $50,000 per year. We budgeted that in the 2021 budget. The union get the vote, and they voted to move forward with the program as written, and I would just like to present it to the board.
Chief, are these physicals, is the plan to conduct these annually then?
They are annually, yeah.
Okay.
So every September is when we'd be scheduled. And actually, Portland Ag will also take on our vaccination program. So we would save money with not contracting that out separate.
Okay, great.
Right now, we contract out vaccinations and hearing testing separate, and that's all rolled into this program.
Okay.
Since there was some changes from what is currently in the CBA, we need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the physical fitness and wellness plan as outlined.
I'll second it, but I have a question.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we were up to date, and we currently update whatever the acceptable amount of mileage is. Usually we go off of what the federal reimbursement level is. I've seen a couple of different rates, and I wanted to make sure that we're consistent and we reflect that rate.
I think we go off the state.
That's correct. We use the state, and it's from Station 6-1 to Portland Advocate. So everybody has the same amount of mileage, but I'll make sure we have the current rate.
Okay, that was one of my concerns. Anyway, good.
Any other discussion? It's been moved and seconded to approve the wellness program. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. Rebound care program.
So Rebound is a program that was formerly called Tactical Athlete. This was presented to both staff and the local at the time at the No Secret seminar that we attended in India. So what this program does is they have relationships and contracts with doctors specifically for musculoskeletal injuries, and they work with our personnel to get them through the L&I system faster. So it's not uncommon for one of our firefighters to be injured and have to wait a month to 6 weeks, if not longer, just to get the MRI and get seen into the doctor. They cut that time into about 3 days. Also help our personnel work through the L&I system, which is complicated.
Yes.
So talking to others around the state, there are several departments that are using this. Central Kitsap, East Pierce, Graham, Olympia, Central Pierce, Hillsborough, and they all said that essentially this program pays for itself because by getting people back to work quicker, they're not just lingering out there on sick leave or light duty or other types of leave. So the cost for this program is $320 per sworn personnel. So the total cost of the program is $22,000. And again, we've adjusted this one budget to cover this program, anticipating this was something you're interested in. Essentially, it's a concierge program to get our people back to work healthy and quicker.
And I do know that some of our people have been really frustrated with L&I. Waiting 6 to 8 weeks for an MRI is pretty silly and it costs the taxpayers money. So anything we can do to help expedite that and get our people back sooner healthy, I'm in favor of.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. That process can be very timely. You need a motion to approve this as well, then?
Since we haven't approved our $25,000, yeah, let's do that if you don't mind.
Yeah, you bet. I'll make a motion to approve the rebound proposal as it's outlined.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Chief, for another good proposal.
Thank you. And we will track our expenditures and savings with this program, so it's a year-to-year contract, but I anticipate we'll see savings with it.
Excellent.
Great.
You know, if we don't save a lot, even getting our people back to work sooner, instead of them being on light duty or off, I think is a good thing. So.
One thing about
good.
rebound, is they only charge us for the sworn personnel, but any personnel or family members of our personnel can utilize this program. So it would be available to staff, commissioners, and family members.
Very good. Resolution 2021-4 revised final fire budget.
So monthly, when I do your monthly budget performance report, I go through and look at all the line items to make sure that they're tracking. There was a line item that was an anomaly here for this time, and it was specifically the medical insurance for admin. So when we went through that, Tina and I looked at the calculations, and we had Chief Taylor assist us, and we realized that there was two things that happened. There was one, a Scribner's error, where the number 185 got changed to 165. And then also we failed to account for adding Andre, the full-time maintenance position, to the medical insurance for app. So in the 2021 budget that you adopted, the current amount was $160,000. We need to increase that to $235,000 to account for all of our anticipated expenditures. The resolution 2021-04 is in your packet.
I just want everybody to know that what we're charged by the state fire commissioners has not been raised. This was just we had to do internally, right? There's not an increase in our medical. Okay. Any questions for the chief?
Mr. Chairman, this is Board Secretary.
Thank you.
I take full blame for this error.
Okay. I don't think we need to blame anybody. I'm glad it was caught, and I just think we need to fix it.
Yeah, I just felt bad about missing that. So
That's
Motion.
I'll move for approval for resolution number 2021-04.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. Kitterman, annexation notice.
So the district was notified by the city of Vancouver that they annexed the area. It's down by 5200 Hazeldale Avenue. It's a 0.6-acre site located in Vancouver's unincorporated urban growth area, and so that will no longer be a tax source for us. I just want to assure the board that this is a small parcel. I don't think this is a sign of things to come.
No, I don't either. So, okay, you're just letting us know, so we don't have to take any action on it. That takes us right down to, there's no executive session. Did any questions come in, Chief?
No, there are no questions.
Okay. Round table, go to the order.
I have a few things. We surplused engine 151. The board gave me discretion to surplus it first to fire service agencies that are in need. I reached out to some of our partners in Klickitat County, and Klickitat County Fire Protection District number 8 was in desperate need of an engine, and they are going to take that surplus engine.
Oh, great.
Without any equipment, just the apparatus. So they were very thankful to the board.
I can tell you from personal experience, it's probably going to be the nicest rig, the nicest engine in Klickitat County, except maybe for Lyle. And I know they're going to appreciate it. And I just think we're paying it forward. That's just what we do in the fire service. And I appreciate you reaching out and getting hold of them, Chief. I think that's really important.
Yes. Yeah, they're very excited and thankful.
Good.
The other thing we had is there was an East County firefighter that suffered a cardiac arrest. He's still in the hospital, but we've reached out on our end to Chief Carnes to offer any help that they may need. And I know Local 452 reached out on their end as well.
Excellent.
Dave Schmicky just lost his sister-in-law yesterday to pancreatic cancer, so if you keep thoughts. And then last thing I had was we're starting to give vaccinations at the Mass vaccination clinic in the fairgrounds. So we have 4 personnel working up there now, 2 doing standby and 2 doing vaccinations.
I think that's a good thing. Any other roundtable in good order? Hearing none, we need to authorize March issuance of payroll warrants, authorize March payroll direct deposits, authorize March deposits of federal and FICA, authorize pre-authorization invoice transmittal, and authorize payment of current bills.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And before I adjourn, I was going to mention our first meeting in April, I'm going to be up in the boondocks, and I'm not sure I'm going to get phone service. Usually I can drive somewhere where I can. I do plan on hopefully participating in the meeting, but I've asked Commissioner Pfeiffer either way, whether I end up on the phone or not, if he would run the meeting for us in April, and he said he would. So if you hear Chief Pfeiffer running the meeting, it's good for him to run a couple. It's because I'm way up on the Klickitat River somewhere, and I'll try to get to cell phone range. So with that said, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.